feel it, don't fight it. The strength of emotional intelligence. The heart of human power. Emotions are not distractions, and they are not enemies. They are messengers, powerful currents that run through every human experience, shaping our decisions, coloring our relationships, and influencing the very quality of our lives. For centuries, society has taught us to tame them, hide them, or push them aside in favor of logic, rationality, and stoicism. Yet the truth is far more empowering. The key to personal strength, deep connection, and lasting fulfillment lies not in fighting our emotions, but in feeling them. This is the core of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and use emotions effectively. We live in a world that rewards productivity over presence and prizes achievement more than alignment. But beneath the hustle, we are emotional beings, constantly navigating a complex internal landscape that can either drive us or derail us. Emotional intelligence is not soft or secondary, it is foundational. It shapes how we handle stress, how we communicate, how we lead, and how we build resilience. They are the ones who can manage their emotions, remain calm under fire, express themselves authentically, and connect meaningfully with others. This book is not a manual for becoming emotionally numb or detached. It is a blueprint for embracing your emotional life with courage and clarity. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean avoiding sadness, fear, or anger. It means allowing those emotions to exist without letting them control you. It's about being able to sit with discomfort, reflect on your triggers, understand your emotional responses, and make choices aligned with your highest values. It's about developing the inner strength to pause instead of react, to listen instead of assume, and to respond with intention instead of instinct. When you learn to feel your emotions without judgment, they become less overwhelming. When you name what you're experiencing, your brain activates your rational faculties, giving you more control over your responses. This awareness builds self-trust and empowers you to act in ways that support your goals rather than sabotage them. In every human interaction, from boardrooms to bedrooms, from conflict to connection, emotional intelligence plays a decisive role. People may forget what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. The energy you bring into a room, the way you handle tension, the ability to read a moment and respond with compassion or confidence, these are all marks of emotional intelligence. For students, professionals, leaders, creatives, parents, or anyone navigating the complexity of modern life, emotional intelligence is not optional, it is essential. IQ may open doors, but EQ keeps them open. And the good news is, unlike IQ, emotional intelligence is not fixed. It can be cultivated, strengthened, and refined through practice. The more you engage with your emotions, the more skilled you become at navigating them. You begin to notice patterns, identify needs, express boundaries, and relate to others with empathy. You become a better listener, a more intentional speaker, a calmer thinker, and a wiser decision-maker. But make no mistake, this is not always easy. Emotional growth often begins in discomfort. It requires that you face truths you've avoided, sit with feelings you'd rather escape, and unlearn patterns that once served you. It asks you to replace reactivity with reflection, to choose understanding over assumption, and to bring mindfulness to moments when emotion runs high. Yet the rewards are profound. Greater emotional intelligence leads to deeper self-respect, richer relationships, stronger leadership, and a more grounded, authentic sense of self. This book will walk you through that journey from emotional awareness to mastery, from chaos to clarity. Each chapter builds upon the last, offering insights, tools, and real-world strategies to help you become more emotionally intelligent in every area of your life. You will learn how to decode your emotional language, handle difficult feelings without suppression, practice empathy without losing yourself, and communicate in ways that deepen trust and connection. You will also explore how to transform emotional pain into growth, how to use emotions to fuel your goals, and how to build daily practices that support emotional resilience. No matter who you are or where you're starting from, emotional intelligence can be your greatest asset. It can elevate how you show up in your relationships, how you perform at work, how you handle setbacks, and how you pursue your passions. It can help you become a more compassionate leader, a more grounded thinker, and a more fulfilled human being. In a world that often tells us to move fast, act tough, and keep pushing, emotional intelligence invites you to slow down, tune in, and move forward with purpose and power. This is not about being perfect or emotionally flawless. It's about becoming more emotionally fluent. It's about recognizing that every emotion has a purpose, and that even your most challenging feelings can be transformed into sources of strength. Emotional intelligence doesn't promise that you'll never feel overwhelmed, angry, sad, or anxious again. It promises that you'll know what to do when you do. It gives you the internal tools to stay rooted in the storm, to navigate relationships with care, and to live with greater alignment between who you are and how you show up. You don't need to fear your emotions. You need to understand them. You don't have to be ruled by what you feel. You can learn to work with your feelings rather than against them. This shift from fear to curiosity, from suppression to acceptance, is the beginning of emotional freedom, and it begins by choosing to feel it, not fight it. Let this book be your guide as you awaken to your emotional power, refine your emotional skills, and build an emotionally intelligent life. You already have what it takes. Now it's time to unlock it. Chapter 1. Understanding Emotions, Your Inner Compass. Emotions are often misunderstood, misjudged, or mislabeled. In daily life, we hear phrases like, "Don't be so emotional," or "keep your feelings in check," implying that emotions are something to be tamed or hidden. But in truth, emotions are a vital part of human intelligence. They are signals, your body's way of communicating what is happening inside you and around you. To ignore them is to walk through life blindfolded. To understand them is to carry a compass through every experience, relationship, and decision. Emotional intelligence begins with this foundational understanding. Emotions are not the problem. It's our relationship with them that defines how we live. We are emotional beings first and rational beings second. The earliest part of the brain to evolve, the limbic system, governs emotions. It developed long before the neocortex, the seat of logic and reasoning. This means our emotional responses are often faster and more intense than our rational thoughts. This isn't a flaw. It's how we survived as a species. Emotions like fear, joy, disgust, and anger helped our ancestors avoid danger, form bonds, and adapt to changing environments. Even today, emotions carry valuable data. They alert us to opportunities and threats. They let us know when our needs are being met or ignored. They reflect our values, shape our relationships, and guide our actions. Imagine walking into a room and feeling uneasy. That feeling might not have a logical explanation at first, but it's information. It could be telling you something about the atmosphere, the people present, or even something unresolved within yourself. When you ignore or suppress that signal, you lose access to that data. When you pay attention to it, you open the door to insight. Emotional intelligence begins with awareness, ability to notice and name what you're feeling without immediately reacting or judging. Many people struggle with this because they were never taught an emotional vocabulary. Words like happy, sad, mad, and scared only scratch the surface of emotional experience. There's a vast world beyond them: frustration, awe, resentment, guilt, anticipation, contentment, jealousy, admiration, shame, pride, and so many more. The more precisely you can name what you're feeling, the more clearly you can understand what's going on. Emotions rarely show up alone. They tend to arrive in clusters or layers. You might feel disappointed and angry at the same time, or excited and scared, or guilty and relieved. Recognizing this complexity is crucial. It prevents oversimplification and helps you respond with greater depth and integrity. For example, if you only acknowledge your anger but not your underlying hurt. You might lash out instead of expressing a deeper need for care or respect. Learning to sit with your feelings and ask, "What else am I feeling?" opens the path to emotional clarity. The next step is to understand the origin of your emotions. Every emotion has a root. Sometimes it's tied to a present event. Other times it's linked to past experiences, old wounds, or unmet needs. Emotional triggers those moments when a small situation causes a big reaction are often echoes of something deeper. Being emotionally intelligent means being curious about your own responses. Instead of blaming others or dismissing your reactions, you investigate them. You ask, "What's this really about? What do I need right now? Where have I felt this before?" Emotional self-inquiry turns every reaction into a learning opportunity. It helps you make sense of your inner world instead of feeling at its mercy. Another essential skill is emotional regulation, the ability to manage your emotional responses without denying or exploding them. This doesn't mean bottling up your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It means creating enough space between emotion and action to choose your response. Breathing, pausing, grounding yourself, and reframing your thoughts are all tools that help you regulate. With practice, you become someone who can feel deeply without being overwhelmed. You can express emotion without losing control. You gain inner steadiness, even in moments of outer chaos. Importantly, emotional intelligence does not mean being positive all the time. Toxic positivity, the pressure to always look on the bright side or suppress difficult emotions, can be harmful. Real emotional intelligence honors the full spectrum of emotion. It allows room for grief, frustration, fear, and sadness as much as it does for joy and gratitude. Each emotion carries a message. Sadness may signal that something meaningful was lost. Anger may reveal a boundary that was crossed. Fear may be pointing to a potential risk. Even envy can be informative. It can highlight a value you want to prioritize or a goal you've neglected. When you stop fighting your emotions and start listening to them, they become your guides. They help you live in alignment with your values, act in ways that are true to yourself, and relate to others with more empathy. Your emotional compass, once sharpened, points you toward authenticity and growth. As you deepen your emotional awareness, you'll begin to see patterns. You'll notice what situations, people, or thoughts tend to evoke certain emotional reactions. You'll understand your emotional habits and begin to shift them. Perhaps you notice that you shut down emotionally when you feel criticized, or that you become defensive when you're unsure of yourself. These patterns aren't flaws, they're clues. They show you where healing, growth, or new strategies are needed. Journaling, self-reflection, therapy, and coaching are powerful tools for uncovering these patterns and transforming them. Emotional intelligence is also deeply tied to self-acceptance. You cannot become emotionally intelligent if you are constantly judging your emotions. If you believe that sadness is weakness or that anger makes you a bad person, you will avoid those emotions instead of exploring them. But when you accept that all emotions are part of the human experience, you create space for healing and transformation. You stop wasting energy on self-criticism and start using it to understand yourself better. Acceptance leads to clarity. Clarity leads to power. The more you understand your own emotions, the better you become at understanding others. Emotional intelligence is not just self-focused, it is relational. When you can identify and regulate your own emotions, you are better equipped to empathize with those around you. You recognize that just as you have hidden fears and unmet needs, so do others. This awareness softens your judgments and deepens your compassion. You listen more openly, speak more thoughtfully, and connect more deeply. In leadership, emotional intelligence creates trust and inspiration. In relationships, it creates intimacy and respect. In daily life, it creates peace. Emotional intelligence does not eliminate conflict, stress, or hard choices, but it gives you the tools to handle them wisely. It helps you stay anchored in who you are, even when life pulls at you from all directions. It allows you to move through challenges without losing yourself. It strengthens your ability to stay present, respond with integrity, and grow through every experience. As you read this book, you will learn specific tools to increase your emotional intelligence, but it starts with this core truth. Emotions are your allies. They are not roadblocks. They are not signs of weakness. They are guides, offering insight, depth, and direction. When you stop fighting your emotions and start feeling them, you unlock a new level of personal power. You learn to navigate life not by force, but by flow, not by suppression, but by wisdom. You discover that everything you need to grow, heal, lead, and connect has been within you all along, waiting to be heard, felt, and understood. Feel it. Don't fight it. Chapter 2. The Myth of Emotional Control: Why Suppression Backfires. From a young age, we are taught to believe that emotional control is a sign of maturity. Phrases like "don't cry," "calm down," or "keep it together" are drilled into us until we internalize a message that emotions are problems to fix rather than experiences to understand. The world rewards stoicism and penalizes emotional expression, often branding it as weakness or instability. But what if everything we've been taught about controlling emotions is not only wrong but dangerous? The truth is that trying to control or suppress your emotions doesn't make you stronger, it disconnects you from yourself. It blocks you from your own inner truth. The more you try to contain or deny your feelings, the more power they gather beneath the surface, ready to erupt in ways that are harder to manage and often more damaging. Emotions are energy. They are meant to move through us, not be trapped inside. When we suppress them, we interrupt a natural cycle. That energy doesn't disappear, it goes inward. It shows up in the form of anxiety, depression, chronic stress, tension, or numbness. It can affect your sleep, your digestion, your relationships, and even your immune system. Emotional suppression is not emotional control. It's avoidance disguised as strength. It creates a false sense of stability while planting seeds of inner chaos. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. At first it seems easy, but the longer you hold it, the more effort it takes. Eventually, it shoots up with more force than you expected. That's what emotional suppression does. It builds pressure inside of you until the emotion finds another way to escape, often through impulsive behavior, passive-aggressive communication, emotional outbursts, or complete shutdown. Real emotional strength isn't about holding the beach ball underwater. It's about learning how to release it with awareness. It's about making peace with your emotional truth and finding healthy ways to express it. We suppress emotions for many reasons. Sometimes it's because we're afraid of judgment. We don't want to be seen as too sensitive, too angry, or too dramatic. Other times it's because we've been taught that some emotions are bad or unacceptable. Maybe you grew up in an environment where sadness was seen as weakness or where anger was punished. Over time, you may have learned to hide those parts of yourself in order to feel safe or accepted. But hiding your feelings doesn't make them go away. It just buries them deeper, and eventually, they come back up, usually at the worst time and in the worst way. Suppression also happens when we don't have the tools or language to express what we're feeling. If you were never taught how to process or communicate your emotions, it's understandable that you'd resort to pushing them aside. But like any skill, emotional processing can be learned. It starts with unlearning the myth that controlling emotions means ignoring or overpowering them. In truth, the healthiest form of control is not suppression, but regulation. Emotional regulation means giving yourself permission to feel, creating space to reflect, and then choosing a response that aligns with your values rather than reacting from your wounds. The danger of suppression goes beyond your internal world. It affects your relationships, your creativity, your leadership, and your capacity to grow. When you suppress your emotions, you suppress your authenticity. You stop showing up fully in conversations. You filter your words. You second-guess your instincts. People sense the distance, even if they can't name it. Emotional disconnection creates misunderstandings, mistrust, and missed opportunities for deeper connection. It prevents vulnerability, which is the foundation of intimacy and collaboration. In leadership, suppressed emotions can make you seem cold or inaccessible. In friendships, they can lead to resentment or confusion. In your personal life, they can create a sense of lone line 7 when you're surrounded by people. The more you disconnect from your feelings, the more you disconnect from life itself. You start to live in a mental bubble, constantly analyzing, planning, and performing instead of feeling, sensing, and being. You lose touch with what excites you, what scares you, what inspires you. You lose the emotional texture that gives life its meaning. The irony is that most people suppress emotions to avoid pain, but in doing so, they cut themselves off from joy as well. When you push down sadness, fear, or anger, you also mute happiness, wonder, and love. The myth of emotional control is often reinforced by cultural narratives. In many societies, masculinity is equated with emotional detachment. Men are praised for being unshakable or stoic, while emotional expression is seen as feminine or weak. Women, on the other hand, are often shamed for being too emotional, creating a lose-lose situation where no one wins. This cultural conditioning teaches all of us to distrust our emotions instead of learning from them. But emotional intelligence isn't about fitting into these outdated molds. It's about creating a new paradigm where emotions are honored, not hidden, where feeling deeply is a form of strength, not shame, where authenticity is more valued than appearance. Emotional suppression also hinders performance and decision-making. Contrary to the belief that emotions cloud judgment, emotional awareness actually improves it. When you suppress emotions, you miss out on vital signals. You may ignore stress until it becomes burnout. You may dismiss a gut feeling that could have prevented a mistake. You may avoid addressing a conflict that ends up eroding a relationship. Emotions provide context. They help you assess risk, gauge opportunity, and understand others. Suppressing them is like flying blind. You might avoid short-term discomfort, but you increase the risk of long-term damage. The solution is not to be ruled by emotions, but to be in relationship with them. Emotional intelligence means listening without being overwhelmed, feeling without being consumed, expressing without hurting others. It means giving yourself permission to feel the full spectrum of emotions and responding with care, curiosity, and intention. This process begins with awareness. Start by noticing when you tend to suppress emotions. Is it when you're afraid of confrontation? When you're around certain people? When you feel like you have to be strong or in control? Pay attention to the physical signs of suppression: tightness in your chest, clenched jaw, shallow breathing, or fatigue. These are signals that something is being held back. Once you notice the emotion, name it, even silently to yourself. I feel anxious. I feel disappointed. I feel hurt. Naming the emotion begins to release its grip. It brings clarity. Then ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What need is underneath it? What action can I take to honor it? You don't always have to act immediately, but acknowledging the emotion is the first step toward healing and growth. Expressing emotions doesn't always mean talking about them in detail. Sometimes it's through movement, writing, art, or simply giving yourself a moment to cry, scream, or breathe deeply. What matters is creating space for the emotion to move through you rather than getting stuck inside you. Suppression is the refusal to feel. Expression is the decision to process. You deserve to live in a body that isn't carrying old emotions like weights. You deserve a mind that isn't constantly managing what you're trying to avoid. You deserve relationships where you can show up fully and truthfully. This begins by challenging the myth of emotional control and embracing the truth that emotions are not enemies, they're messengers. They bring you closer to yourself. They invite you to grow. They show you what matters. In our world, where so much emphasis is placed on performance, appearance, and control, choosing to feel, is a radical act. It requires courage. It requires unlearning. But it also opens the door to freedom. When you stop suppressing your emotions, you make space for healing. You make space for clarity. You make space for connection. And in doing so, you reclaim your power, not the kind of power that comes from dominance or perfection, but the quiet, steady power that comes from wholeness. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it with wisdom. You become emotionally resilient, not because nothing shakes you, but because you know how to stay rooted even in the storm. You trust yourself enough to feel, and in doing so, you become unshakable in a much deeper way. That is the strength of emotional intelligence. Not control, but connection. Not suppression, but presence. Not fear, but trust. When you dare to feel what's true, you unlock your most authentic and powerful self. Feel it. Don't fight it. Chapter 3. Emotional Agility. Navigating the ups and downs of daily life. Life is unpredictable. Every day brings a flood of emotions: excitement, frustration, joy, sadness, fear, hope, all crashing in waves. The real skill isn't in avoiding these feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about how we move through them, adapt, and stay balanced no matter what life throws at us. This skill is called emotional agility, and it's one of the most powerful tools for mastering emotional intelligence. Emotional agility is the ability to recognize your emotions honestly, accept them without judgment, and respond with flexibility and wisdom. It means you don't get stuck in negative feelings or let them control your decisions. Instead, you learn to observe emotions as passing experiences like weather patterns in the sky rather than permanent states of being. This mindset opens the door to healthier relationships, greater resilience, and more intentional living. Why does emotional agility matter so much? Because life is not a straight path, and neither are our feelings. Challenges arise: a bad grade, a disagreement with a friend, a missed opportunity, and these events trigger emotional responses. If we lack agility, we might react impulsively, getting angry, overwhelmed, or withdrawing from others. Over time, this can lead to stress, burnout, and missed chances for growth. But when we develop emotional agility, we pause, understand what's happening inside, and choose our next move with awareness. The first step to emotional agility is acceptance. This means acknowledging your feelings without labeling them as good or bad. If you're feeling anxious before an exam or sad after a setback, allow those feelings to be there. Suppressing or denying emotions only builds pressure that eventually explodes in unhelpful ways. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means giving yourself space to feel fully, which, ironically, makes it easier to move forward. The practice of acceptance also involves self-compassion. Often, when emotions hit hard, we criticize ourselves for feeling weak or overreacting. This harsh inner voice makes emotional challenges even harder. Instead, speak to yourself as you would to a close friend with kindness and understanding. Remind yourself that emotions are part of being human, and it's okay to struggle sometimes. Once you accept your emotions, the next part of emotional agility is curiosity. Rather than rushing to change or escape your feelings, take a moment to explore them. Ask yourself, what is this feeling telling me? Is there a deeper concern or unmet need beneath this surface emotion? For example, frustration might be signaling that something in your life feels unfair or out of control. Curiosity shifts you from reaction to reflection. It opens up new perspectives and creative solutions. Emotional agility also requires flexibility. This means you can shift your thoughts and behaviors to meet changing circumstances. If you find yourself stuck in a negative narrative, "I'm a failure," or "nothing ever goes right," emotional agility helps you notice these patterns and gently redirect your mindset. You might remind yourself of past successes or reframe challenges as opportunities to learn. Flexibility keeps you from becoming trapped in rigid thinking that feeds anxiety and hopelessness. One practical way to build emotional agility is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you become more aware of your emotional landscape and less likely to be swept away by it. Simple techniques like deep breathing, body scans, or focused observation of your surroundings can help you create that mental space where emotional agility thrives. Another key to emotional agility is values-driven action. Once you've identified what you're feeling and why, ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? What aligns with my deepest values? Sometimes, emotions might urge you to avoid discomfort or seek immediate relief. But by connecting to your values, honesty, courage, kindness, growth, you choose actions that support your long-term well-being, even if they are challenging in the short term. Emotional agility isn't about being perfect or never feeling negative emotions. It's about the way you relate to those emotions. It's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding intentionally. Over time, practicing emotional agility builds emotional strength and mental clarity, allowing you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. Consider the story of Maya, a student who struggled with self-doubt and anxiety during her exams. Instead of pushing away her worries, Maya learned to observe them without judgment. She practiced deep breathing when anxiety spiked and reminded herself of her preparation and past achievements. This shift didn't eliminate her nervousness, but it helped her approach the exam with calm focus rather than panic. Her emotional agility transformed stress into a source of energy and motivation. Emotional agility also improves your relationships. When you are aware of your emotions and respond thoughtfully, you create space for honest communication and empathy. You become better at listening not just to others, but to yourself. This deepens connection and reduces conflict. People sense your authenticity and trust you more. Developing emotional agility takes time and practice. It's not a one-time fix, but a lifelong skill. Start small. Notice your feelings throughout the day. Label them without judgment, and ask what they might mean. When difficult emotions arise, pause before reacting. Take a breath, explore the feeling, and choose your response based on your values, not just impulse. Remember, emotional agility is strength, not weakness. It's courage to face your feelings head-on and wisdom to let them guide you rather than control you. The more you cultivate this skill, the more you will find freedom in your emotions and power in your choices. In the chapters ahead, we will explore techniques and practices to deepen your emotional intelligence, building on the foundation of emotional agility. You will learn how to harness your feelings as allies in your journey toward a more fulfilling, resilient life. Embrace the waves of emotion, knowing you have the skill to navigate them. Feel it, don't fight it, and watch your life transform. Chapter 4. Emotional Agility. Bending without breaking. Emotional agility is the unsung superpower of emotionally intelligent people. It is the ability to experience all emotion 7, the uncomfortable, unpleasant ones without being defined or derailed by them. To be emotionally agile is not to resist your emotions, nor is it to surrender to them fully. Rather, it is the capacity to hold emotions with compassion and curiosity, allowing them to inform your next steps without dictating them. This ability to bend without breaking is a hallmark of psychological flexibility, and it is perhaps one of the most important qualities a person can develop in a fast-changing, high-pressure world. Emotional agility means not getting stuck in patterns of avoidance, repression, or over-identification with thoughts and feelings. Instead of thinking, "I am anxious," the emotionally agile person thinks, "I'm noticing that I'm feeling anxious." This small shift in language creates a powerful shift in perception. You are not your emotion. You are the observer of your emotion. And that distance gives you freedom. Freedom to choose a response. Freedom to take action aligned with your values, even when your emotions are pulling you in another direction. It's about stepping out of emotional autopilot and into emotional awareness. At the core of emotional agility is mindfulness, the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Mindfulness helps us see our emotions clearly without being consumed by them. When we pause and breathe instead of reacting immediately, we create space. In that space lies the power to choose. Emotional agility also relies on acceptance, not resignation, but willingness. A willingness to feel what you feel without trying to fix it, run from it, or shame yourself for it. This doesn't mean you allow emotions to control your life, but you stop wasting energy denying or resisting them. You learn to say, "This is hard," or "I'm feeling disappointed," without judging yourself as weak. This self-acceptance strengthens resilience because you're no longer spending emotional bandwidth fighting your reality. You're working with it. Emotionally agile individuals ask better questions. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" Or, "What value of mine is being threatened?" Or, "What can I learn from this?" These kinds of questions lead to growth, not stagnation. They lead to action, not paralysis. And they build a strong inner foundation that can withstand outer storms. Another powerful aspect of emotional agility is the ability to unhook from unhelpful stories. We all have internal narratives that shape how we interpret events. Stories like, "I'm not good enough," "People always let me down," or "I can't handle failure." These stories often operate below the surface, subtly influencing our choices and emotional responses. But when we become emotionally agile, we learn to identify these stories and challenge them. We learn to hold them lightly rather than tightly. We begin to rewrite them with more accuracy and compassion. This doesn't mean we lie to ourselves. It means we update our stories to reflect a fuller truth zone that includes our strength, our potential, and our agency. Emotional agility teaches us that emotions are data, not directives. They give us information, but they don't have to give us orders. Feeling fear doesn't mean you shouldn't take the leap. Feeling anger doesn't mean you should lash out. Emotions illuminate what matters, but they don't have to define your behavior. You can acknowledge fear and still move forward. You can recognize anger and still respond with calm. That is true power. In practice, emotional agility looks like a leader who receives criticism without getting defensive, choosing to listen for truth instead of protecting ego. It looks like a student who feels overwhelmed, but chooses to break their work into small steps rather than shut down. It looks like a parent who feels frustration rising, but pauses to take a breath and respond with patience. These are the everyday moments where emotional agility makes a difference in dramatic breakthroughs, but in consistent choices that add up over time. Developing emotional agility is not about always getting it right. It's about being willing to try, willing to reflect, willing to adjust. It's about practicing the pause between feeling and reacting. In that pause, your emotional intelligence strengthens. In that pause, you grow. Practical steps to build emotional agility include practicing daily mindfulness, even just for 5 minutes, journaling to explore your thoughts and feelings with curiosity, naming your emotions with precision, saying, "I feel discouraged," instead of just bad, noticing your internal narratives and gently questioning their truth, identifying your values and choosing actions that align with them, allowing yourself to experience emotions without needing to fix or control them, and celebrating moments when you respond with awareness rather than react out of habit. These practices train the mind to flex rather than snap. They build the inner musculature of calm under pressure. Over time, you become more stable even when life is unstable. You become more grounded even when emotions run high. That stability is not cold detachment, it is compassionate clarity. It is the ability to care deeply without being consumed. It is the ability to show up fully while staying centered. Emotional agility also involves forgiveness of self and others. When we cling to resentment or shame, we become rigid. We replay old wounds and reinforce emotional loops that no longer serve us. But forgiveness loosens that grip. It allows us to move forward. It frees energy. It expands our capacity to love, to learn, to lead. Forgiveness is not approval of harm. It's the release of the burden. It's choosing growth over grievance. It's choosing freedom over fixation. Emotionally agile people understand that life is uncertain and emotions are messy. But they also understand that strength is not in control. It's in connection. Connection to self. Connection to others. Connection to a deeper purpose. In the journey of emotional intelligence, emotional agility is what keeps us moving. It is the difference between reacting blindly and responding wisely. It is the difference between bottling emotions and balancing them. It is the difference between fear leading the way and values lighting the path. And the good news is, emotional agility is not a fixed trait. It is a skill. It can be learned. It can be practiced. And every time you pause, reflect, and choose deliberately, you are becoming more agile. Every time you face discomfort with openness instead of avoidance, you are growing. Every time you shift from judgment to curiosity, from rigidity to flexibility, from reactivity to response, you are building the kind of emotional strength that changes lives. So don't fight your feelings. Feel them fully. Listen to them. Learn from them. Then move through them with grace. That is the essence of emotional agility. That is the power of feeling without being ruled. That is the strength of emotional intelligence in action. Chapter 5. Relationships and Emotional Intelligence, the Heart of Connection. Emotional intelligence is not just about how we understand ourselves. It's equally about how we relate to others. No matter how talented, smart, or hardworking someone may be, their ability to connect, communicate, and collaborate determines the quality of their relationships and ultimately their quality of life. Emotional intelligence is the foundation of trust, empathy, compassion, and respect, all the things that turn everyday interactions into meaningful human connections. At its heart, it's not just a personal skill, but a relational power. It's the capacity to sense what others feel, respond with care rather than judgment, and navigate the messy, beautiful terrain of human emotion with wisdom. When emotional intelligence is present in a relationship, whether it's between friends, partners, family, or co-workers, conflicts become opportunities for deeper understanding rather than battles for dominance. There's more listening than lecturing, more curiosity than blame, more honesty than hostility, and the relationship strengthens, not because it's perfect, but because it's emotionally safe. That safety, psychological safety, is what allows people to be themselves without fear of being dismissed, attacked, or belittled. It creates the space where vulnerability can exist, and vulnerability is the gateway to real intimacy. At the core of emotionally intelligent relationships is empathy, the ability to feel with someone, not just for them. Empathy isn't about offering solutions or fixing feelings. It's about saying, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you. It's about tuning in rather than tuning out. Many people listen to respond. Few listen to understand. The emotionally intelligent person listens with their full attention, without interrupting or mentally preparing their rebuttal. They're present. They reflect back what they hear. They ask clarifying questions. They validate emotions even if they don't agree with the behavior, because they know that validation doesn't mean agreement, it means acknowledgement, and acknowledgement builds bridges. The emotionally intelligent communicator also knows how to manage their own emotions in the heat of the moment. Instead of reacting impulsively when triggered, they pause. They name what they're feeling. They breathe. They remember the bigger picture, the value of the relationship, the importance of compassion, the difference between reacting and responding. This kind of awareness prevents minor conflicts from escalating into major breakdowns. It protects connection even when conversations are tough, and it models emotional maturity for others. In close relationships, emotional intelligence shows up as the ability to be vulnerable without fear of being rejected. It's the courage to say, "I'm scared, I need help," or "that hurt me," without hiding behind sarcasm, anger, or avoidance. Vulnerability invites closeness. And emotionally intelligent people understand that being honest about feelings is not weakness, it's strength. It takes strength to admit when you're wrong, to apologize without defensiveness, to forgive without conditions, to express love without holding back. These are not soft skills, they're life skills. And they create the emotional glue that holds relationships together in hard times. Emotional intelligence also enhances our ability to set healthy boundaries. Contrary to popular belief, emotionally intelligent people are not pushovers. They are clear about what they will and won't accept. They communicate their needs respectfully but firmly. They know that saying no when necessary is not unkind, it's honest, and honesty, delivered with empathy, strengthens trust. Setting boundaries is not about building walls. It's about defining space where both people can thrive. In the workplace, emotional intelligence is just as essential. Teams with high emotional intelligence outperform those without it, not because they're smarter, but because they manage conflict better, collaborate more effectively, and maintain morale under pressure. Emotionally intelligent leaders are trusted not just because they're competent, but because they care. They listen to concerns, admit mistakes, and inspire with integrity. They lead with heart, not just head, and they create environments where people feel seen, heard, and valued. In teams, emotional intelligence fosters psychological safety, the belief that you can take risks, share ideas, or admit mistakes without fear of ridicule. This safety unleashes creativity, innovation, and loyalty. When people feel emotionally secure, they perform at their best not because they're forced to, but because they want to. And emotionally intelligent cultures, whether in companies, classrooms, or communities, become places where people grow, not just grind. But emotionally intelligent relationships aren't just built on communication, they're built on presence. In our fast-paced, device-driven world, attention is the rarest gift we can give. When you put away your phone, make eye contact, and listen with your whole body, you're saying, "You matter." That moment of connection, however small, builds trust. It builds love. It builds something real in a world filled with distractions. And it reminds the other person and yourself that emotions are not interruptions. They are invitations. Invitations to connect more deeply, to understand more fully, to live more meaningfully. Emotional intelligence in relationships also means recognizing emotional patterns, yours and others. Maybe you shut down when criticized. Maybe your partner gets defensive when they feel unappreciated. Maybe a friend withdraws when overwhelmed. When you begin to notice these patterns with compassion, not criticism, you unlock the power to change them. You begin to respond in ways that soothe rather than escalate. You become the calm in the storm, not another gust of wind. And that calmness becomes a gift to yourself and to everyone you relate to. Self-awareness is the first step to improving relationships. The more you understand your emotional triggers, communication style, and unconscious habits, the better you can show up for others. The more you learn to self-regulate, the less you rely on others to manage your emotional state. That independence creates interdependence, see not codependence. You become a whole person entering into a whole relationship. And from that, wholeness comes deeper connection. Emotional intelligence also reminds us that love is not a constant feeling, it's a consistent choice. Feelings fluctuate, especially in long-term relationships, but choosing to care, to show up, to grow together, that's what keeps love alive. And emotionally intelligent people are willing to have the hard conversations, take responsibility for their part, and keep choosing connection over comfort. They know that great relationships aren't found, they're built, moment by moment, through small acts of emotional courage. If you want to build more emotionally intelligent relationships, start by listening more than you speak. Practice empathy, by putting yourself in someone else's emotional shoes. Validate others' emotions without rushing to fix them. Express your feelings with clarity and kindness. Set and respect boundaries. Apologize when you're wrong. Forgive when others fall short. Be present. Be honest. Be compassionate. These simple actions, done consistently, transform relationships from surface level to soul deep. And they transform you from someone who reacts to someone who responds, from someone who connects only when it's easy to someone who connects even when it's hard. Emotional intelligence in relationships is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about learning and growing and trying again. It's about knowing that emotions, though sometimes messy, are the very threads that weave human connection. When you learn to navigate those threads with care, with skill, with heart, your relationships change. They become richer, stronger, more resilient, and so do you. So, if you want to deepen your relationships, don't run from emotions, run toward them. Don't shut down, open up. Don't wait for others to change, lead with your own growth. And remember, every emotionally intelligent choice you make is a step toward the kind of connection we all long for, real, raw, and rooted in empathy. That is the power of emotional intelligence in relationships. That is the heart of connection. Chapter 6. Building Resilience Through Emotional Intelligence. Weathering the Storm Within. Life doesn't promise smooth sailing. Everyone, no matter how successful, admired, or emotionally skilled, faces storms, moments of loss, rejection, failure, fear, and deep uncertainty. What sets resilient people apart is not that they avoid hardship, but that they navigate it with strength and purpose. Emotional intelligence is the compass that guides them through. It provides the tools to face adversity without being defined by it. It's the difference between being knocked down and staying down versus getting up with a clearer mind and stronger heart. At the center of resilience is not toughness or denial, but emotional agility, the ability to acknowledge difficult emotions, sit with them, process them, and respond with clarity rather than chaos. Resilient people don't pretend they're okay when they're not. They feel it fully, then decide how to move forward. That ability is the foundation of emotional strength. It's not about having all the answers, it's about having the capacity to keep showing up, emotionally honest, even when it's hard. Emotional intelligence empowers you to meet pain with compassion instead of judgment. When something painful happens, the untrained mind rushes to blame yourself, others, the world. It spirals into, "Why me?" or "What's wrong with me?" But emotional intelligence replaces those questions with better ones. What am I feeling? What do I need? What can I learn from this? These questions don't erase the pain, but they begin to reframe it. They give meaning to struggle. They shift you from victimhood to agency. They allow you to move through the storm without losing your center. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't suppress emotion in the name of toughness. They don't collapse under emotion in the name of sensitivity. They integrate emotion into their response, letting it inform without control. That balance between feeling and functioning is the essence of resilience. It's what allows people to grieve and grow at the same time, to be shaken but not shattered. One of the most powerful tools for building resilience through emotional intelligence is self-compassion. Often misunderstood as weakness or indulgence, self-compassion is actually the fiercest form of emotional self-care. It's how you talk to yourself when things go wrong. Do you berate yourself, call yourself names, shame yourself into silence? Or do you speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend, kindly, firmly, supportively? Resilient people know that they can't beat themselves into growth. They must nurture it. And nurturing begins with a voice inside that says, "You're doing your best." You made a mistake not because you're worthless, but because you're human. You can learn. You can improve. You are still worthy. That inner voice shapes your ability to recover. Because when you are your own ally, not your enemy, you become unstoppable. Emotional intelligence teaches you to cultivate that allyship with yourself, not just when things are going well, but especially when they're not. Emotionally intelligent people also understand the value of emotional expression during hard times. They cry when they need to cry. They scream when they need to scream. They journal, talk, move, create whatever helps them release the emotional energy without damaging themselves or others. They don't numb with overwork, over-drinking, or over-scrolling. They know that unprocessed emotion doesn't disappear, it just finds a darker place to live, and so they process. Not all at once, not perfectly, but consistently. They give themselves time, space, permission. And in that permission they discover power. Resilience isn't found in avoiding pain. It's found in facing it, feeling it, and finding a path through it. Emotional intelligence provides the map, the tools, the flashlight in the dark. Another pillar of resilience is perspective. Emotionally intelligent individuals know how to zoom out during a crisis. They remind themselves that pain, while intense, is often temporary. They remember past challenges they've overcome. They anchor themselves in their values, the deeper why behind their efforts. When they lose a job, they mourn, but they don't lose their identity. When a relationship ends, they grieve, but they don't stop believing in love. When they fail, they learn, but they don't stop dreaming. This perspective doesn't deny difficulty, it contextualizes it. It helps people ride out the emotional waves without being consumed by them. It helps them realize that resilience is not a one-time act of heroism, it's a daily commitment to stay emotionally grounded in the face of life's ups and downs. Resilient people also lean on emotionally intelligent support systems. They surround themselves with people who can hold space for their emotions without minimizing, fixing, or judging. They reach out when overwhelmed. They ask for help when they're hurting. They let themselves be seen in their most raw moments, and they offer the same safe presence to others. They know that resilience is not built alone. It is reinforced through connection. And that connection thrives in emotionally safe relationships where vulnerability is welcomed, not punished. Emotional intelligence helps you both give and receive that kind of support. It helps you say, "I'm struggling," without shame. And it helps others respond with empathy rather than fear. Resilience also depends on your ability to manage emotional triggers. In the middle of a crisis, the emotionally unaware person might lash out, shut down, or spiral into negativity. The emotionally intelligent person, on the other hand, notices the trigger, names it, pauses, and chooses a response. That gap between stimulus and response is where resilience lives. It's where growth happens. It's where you take control back from your environment. You become the author of your reaction, not the victim of it. And every time you choose a healthy response over a reactive one, you strengthen your emotional muscles. You build the inner architecture to handle more, feel more, and bounce back faster. Finally, emotional intelligence helps you find meaning in adversity. Not all pain is purposeful, but resilient people find a purpose in how they respond to it. They ask, "What is this experience teaching me about myself? What can I take from this and offer to others?" They use their pain to deepen their wisdom, their empathy, their commitment to growth. They become better, not bitter. They let life stretch them, not break them. And in doing so, they embody true emotional strength, not the kind that avoids feeling, but the kind that honors it as the soil in which courage grows. So, when life gets hardened, it will turn inward. Feel what you feel, name it, own it, then begin the slow, steady process of choosing your response with wisdom and care. Let emotional intelligence be your anchor, your guide, your light. And remember, resilience doesn't mean you never fall. It means you rise again and again with more self-awareness, more compassion, and more clarity than before. That is the unshakable strength that emotional intelligence offers. That is how you weather the storm within. Chapter 7. The future is emotional. Building a life with EQ at the core. We are standing at the edge of a new era, a world where the most valuable skills are not simply technical, but deeply human. A world where connection matters more than competition and understanding outweighs information. The future will reward those who can manage themselves, collaborate with others, and adapt with grace. At the center of all these abilities is emotional intelligence. It's no longer optional, it's essential. As we move forward into an increasingly fast-paced, unpredictable, and interconnected world, the ability to understand emotions, both our own and those of others, is becoming the defining trait of successful, fulfilled individuals. Emotional intelligence is not just a soft skill, it's a life skill, and the more we nurture it, the stronger our relationships, careers, and inner worlds become. Imagine living a life where you are no longer controlled by your emotional impulses, where anger doesn't dictate your words, where fear doesn't paralyze your action, where sadness doesn't drown your perspective. Instead, you notice those emotions, honor them, learn from them, and then respond in ways that reflect your values. This is not a fantasy. It's the power of a well-developed emotional intelligence. It gives you space between what happens and how you choose to act. It gives you control, not by force, but through awareness. You become someone who leads with presence, someone who listens without needing to fix, someone who inspires others not by loud words, but by quiet strength. That is what emotional intelligence can offer when you commit to it not just as a theory, but as a lifestyle. At school, emotional intelligence equips students with the resilience to handle academic pressure and social tension. It allows young people to recognize when they're overwhelmed, to reach out for support, to treat others with kindness, and to bounce back from setbacks. Students with high EQ don't just succeed in exams, they lead with empathy in group projects, they resolve conflicts instead of escalating them, and they create emotionally safe environments that uplift everyone. This is how leaders are born not from IQ alone, but from EQ. When parents model emotional awareness, children grow up feeling seen and supported. They learn that it's okay to feel, to cry, to be angry or afraid. They learn how to communicate their needs without aggression or withdrawal. Emotional intelligence is not just about managing emotions, it's about modeling humanity. In the workplace, the future belongs to those who can collaborate, lead with empathy, and adapt to change. Technical knowledge may get your foot in the door, but emotional intelligence determines whether people want to follow you, work with you, or trust you. Leaders with high EQ don't manipulate, they motivate. They don't dominate, they empower. They understand the moods of their teams and make space for emotional honesty. They know that creativity thrives in psychologically safe environments, and they prioritize well-being as much as performance. Workers with emotional intelligence handle feedback with maturity, support their coworkers, and deal with challenges without collapsing. This kind of workplace culture doesn't happen by accident, it's built by individuals who've chosen to master themselves first. On a personal level, emotional intelligence enhances every area of life. It allows you to develop deeper relationships because you're no longer reacting from wounds, but responding from wisdom. It allows you to set healthier boundaries because you recognize your worth and no longer fear rejection. It allows you to experience the full range of emotions from joy to grief without getting stuck. You learn that every emotion has a message, and when you listen, you grow. You stop being at war with your inner world. You become your own safe space. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean you never get triggered. It means you recognize your triggers, take a breath, and choose a better path. It's the daily work of observing, naming, feeling, and navigating your emotions with grace. Over time, this work builds inner peace, the kind that isn't dependent on circumstances. It creates a sense of power rooted in presence, not performance. Emotional intelligence is also key to making meaningful change in the world. Movements are not driven only by strategy, they are driven by empathy. Social progress is built when people see the humanity in others and act to protect it. Emotional intelligence allows us to sit in discomfort, to listen across differences, and to engage in difficult conversations without shutting down or lashing out. It gives us the courage to hold space for painers and others, and then move toward solutions. The most effective changemakers are not just intellectually passionate, but emotionally grounded. They know how to navigate criticism without crumbling. They know how to lead through tension. They don't avoid hard truths, but they also don't become consumed by bitterness. They lead with heart. And it shows. Cultivating emotional intelligence is a lifelong journey. It's not a box you check off or a course you finish. It's a daily practice. And like any skill, it grows with intentionality. You grow it by checking in with yourself each day. What am I feeling right now? What triggered it? What does this emotion need from me? You grow it by slowing down instead of reacting, by apologizing when you mess up, by learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of numbing them, by celebrating small wins like choosing kindness when annoyed or staying calm during conflict. You grow it by staying curious, not judgmental, about your inner life, by remembering that emotional intelligence is not perfection, its presence, not control, its compassion. If you've ever thought emotional intelligence is too abstract, too idealistic, or only for sensitive people, think again. EQ is practical. It's powerful. It's the foundation of leadership, innovation, connection, and well-being. It's what allows you to bounce back after failure, to stand strong during uncertainty, and to love deeply without losing yourself. It's not a luxury. It's not a trend. It's a necessity in a world where emotional noise is louder than ever. When you commit to this work to feeling instead of fighting, you don't just become emotionally intelligent, you become emotionally free. And in that freedom, everything changes. You stop chasing validation. You start honoring your truth. You stop performing perfection. You start embracing wholeness. You stop reacting out of fear. You start leading with love. This is not about denying the hard parts of life. It's about meeting them with strength and softness combined. It's about stepping into a new version of yourself and who no longer avoids emotion, but partners with it. One who knows that emotional awareness is not weakness, it's wisdom. One who dares to live, love, lead, and grow from a place of deep inner clarity. The future is emotional. The question is, are you ready to step into it with eyes open, heart engaged, and mind aligned? Are you willing to feel deeply, to connect honestly, to live with emotional truth at the center? Because that's where life expands. That's where you unlock your potential. That's where transformation begins, not when you suppress who you are, but when you fully embrace it. So feel it. Don't fight it. That's where your strength lives. That's where the future is waiting. From awareness to action, living the emotionally intelligent life. You've walked through the heart of emotional intelligence. You've discovered the power of tuning in instead of shutting down, listening instead of reacting, owning your feelings instead of fearing them. You now understand that emotions aren't obstacles, they're messengers. And when we stop fighting them, when we stop trying to outsmart what we feel, we open ourselves to a deeper kind of wisdom. The kind that doesn't shout, but guides. The kind that grounds us in who we are while helping us connect with others from a place of authenticity, not performance. This isn't a one-time revelation. It's the beginning of a lifelong transformation. Emotional intelligence doesn't end with understanding. It begins with it. Self-awareness is just the first spark. What matters now is what you do with that awareness. Will you begin your mornings with intention, checking in with how you feel before the world floods in with its demands? Will you pause during conflict, not to suppress anger or sadness, but to recognize what it's really telling you? Will you build your days on the foundation of presence, not perfection? That's what this journey calls for action. Deliberate, consistent, sometimes messy action. Because growth isn't clean, but it is powerful. And every time you choose to feel rather than flee, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your emotional strength. The emotionally intelligent life is not about being unshakable. It's about being honest with yourself in moments of shaking. It's about no longer pretending you're fine when you're breaking inside. It's about learning how to stay with yourself in your hardest emotions without turning away. And in doing so, you become the kind of person who can hold space for others too. You become the friend who listens without rushing to fix, the colleague who de-escalates rather than escalates, the parent, partner, mentor, or leader who offers not just words, but presence. Presence is what heals. It's what transforms. And that presence begins with you choosing to stay emotionally present to your own life. Let's be honest. This world doesn't always encourage emotional awareness. It moves fast. It rewards control. It teaches us to chase success at the cost of our inner peace. But when you learn to bring emotional intelligence into your daily decisions, you begin to move differently. You stop chasing validation from the outside and start listening to what your inner self needs. You stop masking your pain with productivity. You realize that vulnerability is not a liability. It's your greatest asset. You stop avoiding fear and begin growing through it. You stop running from failure and start seeing it as feedback. And slowly, you become the person who trusts themselves even when the path is unclear. That trust, that inner relationship, is the essence of emotional intelligence. No matter what stage of life you're in, student, leader, dreamer, parent, builder, you will face moments that test your emotional depth. You'll face rejection, doubt, criticism, confusion. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't deny those moments. They embrace them as training. They understand that emotional fitness is built just like physical fitness, by pushing through discomfort, by showing up when it's easier to shut down, by choosing compassion when anger feels easier, by being the calm in the chaos, not because you've numbed your feelings, but because you've processed them. You've faced them, and you've come out stronger, not harder. And this doesn't mean you'll never lose your temper again, or never feel overwhelmed. It means you'll recognize those moments sooner. You'll recover faster. You'll be kinder to yourself in the process. Because emotional intelligence isn't about being flawless. It's about being fully human. It's about giving yourself permission to feel, and also the tools to navigate those feelings wisely. That's what creates true resilience, not emotional suppression, but emotional fluency. That's what separates those who crumble from those who rise. So, what do you do now? You start applying what you've learned. You begin practicing emotional self-checks daily. You reflect after conversations: what did I feel? Why? What did the other person feel? What did they need? You choose to ask rather than assume, to breathe rather than blame, to reflect rather than react. You journal not just to vent, but to understand. You meditate not to escape emotion, but to sit with it. You pause in moments of tension and ask, what value do I want to lead with here? You teach others, not with lectures, but with your life. You live this work. And when you fail at it, and you choose not shame, but curiosity. You step back, learn, and try again. Emotional intelligence is not a straight line. It's a spiral. Some lessons will repeat. Some emotions will resurface. But each time, you'll have more tools, more insight, more self-trust, because you've done the work, and the work works. Slowly, you'll begin to see shifts. People will respond differently to you. You'll feel less exhausted after interactions. You'll have more clarity under pressure, more peace in your relationships, more energy for your dreams. That's what happens when you're no longer at war with your inner world. One of the greatest gifts emotional intelligence offers is the ability to rewrite your story, to look back at your past, not with judgment, but with compassion, to reframe your pain not as weakness, but as wisdom, to own your scars, not with shame, but with pride in how far you've come. You are not the person who exploded in anger 5 years ago. You're not the person who avoided hard conversations. You're not the person who buried sadness under achievement. You are someone new, someone becoming. Someone brave enough to feel everything and still move forward with heart. You now have the blueprint, the principles, the mindset. But the power of this book does not lie in its pages. It lies in your practice. Take this into your classroom, into your office, into your family, into your friendships, into your dreams. Lead with empathy. Listen to your intuition. Sit with discomfort. Ask better questions. Breathe before you speak. Apologize when you're wrong. Celebrate your growth. Stay present in your body. Feel your feelings fully, and then choose your response. That is the emotionally intelligent life. And one day when someone says, "You're so calm," or "I feel safe around you," or "You really help me," you'll know it wasn't an accident. It was emotional intelligence. It was you, choosing presence over performance, compassion over control, honesty over hiding. That's who you've become. That's who you are becoming still. So go now. Live what you know. Teach with your presence. Lead with your emotions. Build a life that honors every part of who you are. And remember this: your emotions are not your enemy. They are your teachers, your allies, your superpower. Feel them. Don't fight them. That is your strength. That is your legacy.